Welcome back, Trinidad and Tobago. We're coming to you live from the Hyatt Regency Hotel, and the reason that we're here today, the Energy Conference 2019, major players have all assembled. They're talking technology, sustainability and moving forward. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley will be the featured speaker at the opening ceremony. There are a number of display booths, the big players, the small players, the service companies. Everyone is here today because they want to not only understand where we are going, where we are, but how do we intend to leverage our position. Changes are taking place regionally, globally. We're not just talking about the Venezuela situation. Let's also not forget that Guyana is just right there. How are we going to ensure that we remain relevant? Now, NGC is one of the major players in the energy sector. It's a flagship company. Interesting dynamic. It's sort of that middle ground to make sure that we get the benefit of the resources, not they're owned not just by the people, but they are used to benefit the people. Contract negotiations, that's something we've been hearing a lot about. And moving into 2019, when we're seeing the trend for these negotiations to continue, how can we ensure that we get value for money and that we remain competitive? Well, the men to talk a little bit about that, we have the president of NGC, that's Dr. Vernon Paltoo, and also Mark Loquan, and he's the president of the group of companies. Good morning, gentlemen. How are you both?
Correction, president of NGC.
NGC.
Is president of National Energy.
Good morning. How are you both?
Fine, thank you.
Fine, thank you.
Let me start with the theme this year. We're talking about technology. The conference is transforming the industry. What does that mean to NGC?
Well, you would have seen in the last years the boom in shale gas, for instance, and that has been a result of changes in fracking technology in the U.S. Of course, what that has meant has resulted in many more new plants, lower prices of gas in the U.S., and more plants being built in the U.S., which of course has a direct impact on Trinidad, where our existing base that has built up over many decades find themselves in a position unable to go to the States anymore with their product. They have to go further away. And so you see a lot of changes that has happened on the downstream industry. We're in the middle of downstream contract negotiations, and of course that means price is an important issue, volumes are an important issue, and we both have challenges in those areas.
I've heard a lot about fracking technology and how that has not only changed the U.S. landscape, but allowed them to be one of the largest exporters.
That's correct.
Just explain, for the benefit of our viewers, breaking it down, what does that mean? What is the technology, and is it applied locally?
Well, the fracking technology has been around since the 40s. The issue has been the horizontal drilling, which has been around for 80s,
right,
has now been combined. And when you combine, it means you can access gas that you with much less assets before, and therefore the economics has changed tremendously. So what you have seen now is a boom in shale gas production from the U.S., making the U.S., as you rightly say, one of the largest LNG exporters. Yes. So the impacts of that is, of course, a lot of our LNG in the past also used to go to the U.S., and now the U.S. is no longer importing, it's exporting. So it has many impacts in terms of our own LNG, and it has also impacts on the global trend.
Where are we getting new markets?
Well,
how are we getting new markets?
Yeah, if you look at some of the trends going on, though, you would see that particularly in China, where they're moving away from coal and going to natural gas, you see clearly China has been one of the largest growth areas in terms of LNG, and that will continue for the coming years. So as they switch from coal to gas, with those very clear policies of trying to become cleaner and so on, that will certainly impact where LNG goes. So China is one of the big areas.
Now, the area of renewables and energy efficiency, even though natural gas is a cleaner fossil fuel, when people think cleaner energy, we normally will think solar and wind. How far off are we to that?
Well, as part of the activities within the NGC group, we are actively partnering with the Ministry of Energy and Energy Industries in developing the renewable energy projects in aid of reaching our target. The government's target is 10% renewable energy by 2021. Now, renewable energy is part of a broader spectrum of the sustainable energy framework. And within sustainable energy, there are three sections that we look at. One is utility generation for power generation projects. So that is where the solar and the wind projects come in. And we at National Energy are currently working with the Ministry of Energy in getting those projects on stream and operational in time for the 2021 target. However, there are other aspects of the sustainable energy framework. These include probably things like energy efficiency, and I'll talk about that shortly. But more so, we want to be involved in the manufacturing sector when it comes to renewable energy. So as it is, we are world-class producers of methanol and ammonia. However, there's an opportunity for us to leverage those synergies and become players in the realm of PV cell manufacturing, for example. So then what happens is that we become a manufacturer of solar cells instead of just buying and installing solar cells within the framework. So that is one area that we are looking at too, and we are actively developing that. However, energy efficiency is another area that we have to focus on a lot. And you'll hear a lot of that during the course of this conference, where there's room for reducing the overall requirement for natural gas, and so thereby allowing it to be used for higher value products.
You know, it's interesting that you identify energy efficiency because it has been identified as one of the themes going into 2019. People are asked to do more with less.
Yes.
How efficient are we?
Well, in reality, there's a lot of room for improvement, and that goes across the spectrum from domestic in the household straight on to the large petrochemical plants. We are trying to do it one step at a time by educational campaign. But in addition to that, we are actively targeting light industrial customers of NGC, where there's room for improvement, where there's room for increased use of the energy resources that we have. And that leads us to a concept which we are developing called the Super ESCO, where National Energy will drive energy audits in terms of looking at some of these businesses with the aim of improving the overall utilization of energy and thereby making more gas molecules available for a higher value use.
Who's going to roll out these energy audits, and do we have the capabilities to do that?
So that is National Energy will take the lead together with the Ministry, the Ministry of Energy and Energy Industries. But it is part of the NGC activity to actively improve and drive energy efficiency within our customers. And so we will take the lead at that's National Energy within the NGC group in terms of starting the whole process of undertaking the audits. And these will be done in conjunction with multilateral agencies as well as local agencies.
Now we're talking technology. So NGC obviously is putting a number of things in place to ensure that we utilize and are we able to transform the way we do business. But when service sector players tell you, well, the ease of doing business in Trinidad and Tobago is just not in alignment with what you're doing, how do you find the middle ground?
Well, I think, you know, it has to be done both at a company level and hopefully the national level as well. When it comes to the company level, for example, where we want to roll out e-auctions and improve the way that we do procurement and supply chain management, we actually bring along a lot of the supply base with us to ensure that we are working in a certain manner using the same tools so that we can be a lot more transparent as a state entity and at the same time achieve cost effectiveness. So that's one way. The other way is really the way how we kind of impact this at a national level. And that is where you start to get into your global competitive indexes and your global innovation index. You see that Trinidad and Tobago is ranked, I would say the highest on the scale. I would say probably third quarter in that ranking. And in some cases, in the global innovation index, you're like in the fourth quartile. So I think there's a lot of room for improvement in terms of how we generate policies for innovation and how we use the innovations and R&D in some of the world-class players that we have in Trinidad better for Trinidad and Tobago.
You know, innovation is an interesting word because a lot of times it's not just the introduction of new technology, but it can just be tweaking your current business model. Is it that we're risk adverse or we're just not creating the environment for people to tamper with the existing equation?
It may be both, but I think the thing is the environment that we have. I mean, you have players here, for example, in the agricultural fertilizer business. We like to say that we are the #1 ammonia exporter in the world, right? But when you boil it down, our food import bill is pretty high, and it occupies, I would say, close to 10% of our expenditure. But you know R&D is going on in some of these companies that can, I guess, help the farmers and agriculture in a deeper way.
Right.
So I would say we're not working smart enough, and I think it's probably time when we are facing such challenges economically and everything that the industry has to get together and work differently.
NGC has managed to find a middle point with the last set of negotiations, and the Atlantic negotiation has been completed. I know that there are a number of other negotiations on the table for 2019. Do you expect that it's going to take as long?
Well, the difference is that when it comes to the past negotiations, it would have been more the ammonia sector. We'll be dealing more with the methanol sector going forward. It should not, because the price level is what it is. The volumes are not as where we would like it to be. But there are challenges in all of these negotiations. It should be easier theoretically, but it's always a case-by-case basis that you have to go by. But I think the approach and relationships with the downstream now is one where I think we've been fairly open with the information on terms of how we're doing and what we're doing. So that helps. But it does boil down to some of each individual case.
Now, I know that NGC is actively pursuing a strategy to reduce natural gas use in power generation. You may be doing that, but is TNTech on board? And in terms of integrating cleaner technology as part of our power grid?
Well, the whole issue with using molecules, as you say, in power, I mean, the challenge has been, of course, I'm here, two state entities trying to operate, and it's been a problem in the past where arrays have built up so large that you need to kind of find a solution based on all the accounting standards that are now changing around you. But the issue is TNTech has also been working closely with us. You would have seen transfer of gas to TGU, for example, over the years, which is, of course, a combined cycle instead of a simple cycle gas turbine. So you would see that the efficiency of the molecules in electricity has also improved. That has helped in this time, but you also would have seen that we have a lot of discussions with respect to power tranches. And that is how each supplier of gas is able to provide a tranche of gas for the electricity sector alone, right? So that has been also a change in conversation over the last couple of years.
Now, I know we'll hear a lot more of this conversation, but I do want to ask about the TT Engage initiative. Seems very exciting. Tell me a little bit about it.
Sure. So TT Engage was launched in December last year in 2018. And, excuse me, the focus of that initiative is to improve the investment facilitation process. As you know, with decline gas resources and increased prices, we still have to remain very competitive as a location. We have to ensure that investment still comes to Trinidad. And part of doing that is ensuring that the investment facilitation process is seamless and more efficient. And TT Engage is a deliberate effort from National Energy as part of the NGC group in terms of streamlining the approval processes that we undertake as part of building a new business. So essentially, it's about bringing all the relevant stakeholders together, for example, EMA, Town and Country Planning, Commissioner of State Lands, and all the other ministries that are involved in the approval process. In terms of having structured interventions for the approval process, as well as building an electronic platform to facilitate parallel approvals. And this all plays into the theme of this conference, which is technology. And it's about using technology to make a business easier, to make business better. And TT Engage is mirrored after the Sri Lankan model, which actually has been very successful in terms of reducing the time it takes for business approvals, as well as the costs in terms of getting a business approved. So we are very excited about getting that launched during the course of this year.
Mr. Loquan, I know that NGC has embarked on digitization. Tell me a little bit about that as well.
Well, that has ranged from communication inside, where you don't have to invest in a lot of money to kind of get people talking better. So you find that some of the existing tools such as Yammer and Microsoft Teams and more getting people to work as teams breaking down the walls has helped. Then, of course, we are going to an enterprise-wide system where you can get all the data that we all work with in separate areas, all in one platform in the cloud. And that allows us to get real-time information, get decisions made faster, I mean, that's the direction that we're going. You see also the use of drones that we're using in the field, where we had to use helicopters and, you know, all kinds of satellite images. And now we're getting into the fairly I guess, standard technology now that helps in all the inspections and picking up leaks and slips in the land and so on. So I think credit to the team that have been coming up with those kind of ideas.
You seem really excited by all of these developments. I told someone the other day that in the mid of 2018, you could kind of look at the way we do business, and the future is now. When you talk AI, you talk cloud technology, you talk big data, it's all just part of our everyday business operations. And technology will be featured predominantly in the discussions at the energy conference that's taking place today and over the next 3 days. Now, as you know, Jesse Ramday is also standing by. Jesse has the opportunity to interact with all of the display booths and all of the persons there. Bustling activity here. I understand that Baker Hughes will be giving us their perspective on what's taking place. Gentlemen, thank you so much. We take a short break. When we come back, we'll have more for you. Thank you very much.